What are the other traits that you expect or that you coach your client leaders on as they prepare to embark on these projects?
I think what I spend a lot of time trying to understand is, what's the business objective? What's the strategic end game? What's the goal? Like, we aspire to be, particularly right now in this world that we're in, we aspire to be a technology partner, not a software vendor. And in being a technology partner, what are the different attributes that make that business successful? Actually, individually, what's that individual's goals? What are they trying to do with the business? And invariably, I always find opportunities to evolve what we're doing for that customer to find a bigger way to meet that need. Equally, if I'm meeting with manufacturers and in listening to the objectives of the C-suite in the manufacturing domain, it might highlight some gaps in the solution, and that informs our M&A strategy, because we are active in M&A, and what we pride ourselves on in M&A is finding capabilities that expand the solution breadth and depth as it relates to asset and service life cycle, as it relates to the capital intensive asset heavy industries that we solve. But it's I think getting to the so what is super important, and finding ways to link what we do to the so what.
Right. Yeah, good.
It's more interesting, for our people. If we've got teams of people who are working really hard, because this stuff is really hard, when they can identify with the difference it makes, to the strategic objectives of the customer, guess what? Everyone's just more emotionally bought in.
Right.
And more prepared to go that extra mile. I am.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, it's like you said before, it is difficult. The projects are difficult, but what you need to do to be successful, to power through those difficulties, isn't that difficult. I mean, it's simple what you need to do. It's just the problem is it's easy to get distracted by the wrong things and focus on or over prioritize the wrong things in these sorts of projects.
Yeah, we have a success offering, Eric, and one of the things that's really cool about our success offering is that it's obviously very relevant in the context of a project lifecycle, but where it's misunderstood and which has massive value beyond is the success team that are working with the customer in the life of the agreement we have after go live. They're constantly trying to find ways to improve. They're constantly trying to find ways to say, okay, we have an aerospace customer here that's using our software quite happily. What's the customer over there doing? And how are they using it in a new way? Oh, the latest release of the software is coming. What's coming? How can we get ahead of this? How can we take advantage? What's in the roadmap? Like, oh, roadmap, have you thought about ABC? Because that reflects the need in this customer and how their environment is changing. So when you get into that mode, you become that technology partner.
Right. Now, when you look ahead to, the next 3 to 5 years, which seems like an eternity at the pace that technology is changing right now. But when you look ahead, what emerging technologies or business models will most disrupt the way field service and capital intensive companies operate? What are the things you guys are preparing for in your roadmap?
Well, firstly, I mean, you're right. I mean, the pace of change right now, I think, is unprecedented. I really believe that. I mean, I've always been a voracious reader and watcher and learner, and I can't keep up some days. I'm like, what just happened this week? I still haven't looked at what Bill Gates has said about climate this week. I'm waiting for a moment where I can just go and understand, his perspective on that. So the pace is just relentless right now. And given that statement, I've forgotten your question. What was it?
What was I was enthralled with what you were saying, and I was actually
5 years out. 5 years out.
Yeah, 5 years out. I was getting a bit distracted thinking about a whole different topic, which was what you were just saying. We're talking a lot about AI and knowledge. Like, just think about, we're talking about technology and how AI is being used in the B2B world, but imagine just in general how fast the world's going to change with this additional knowledge, access to information, analysis, speed. It's scale. So sorry, that was a total detour from the real question, which is 3 to 5 years out. What problems do you think you're going to try and solve?
Yeah, I think obviously the proliferation of AI right now characterized by clearly consumer grade, AI in the form of ChatGPT and Claude and Perplexity and Gemini and others. I think most people will see the potential for it, and most people will see how that's evolved from a consumer experience perspective. Interestingly, some of that's rolling back now, though. I saw this week that ChatGPT are rolling back on being able to diagnose medical conditions. I've used ChatGPT a couple of times to help me with like what's going on there, so I'm a bit disappointed by that. But it's rolling back, which is super interesting by itself. But you've seen the rate of progression, and you can immediately think about the rate of that progression in the context of what companies do on a day-to-day basis, and that's the kind of thing that we're focused on. But I think the not yet fully appreciated technology that's going to make a massive difference is the prevalence of robotics. Like we actually, our board went to Silicon Valley relatively recently, and we met a robotics company whilst we're there. And I think we're all blown away by this humanoid robot and where it's at right now in its dexterity and its ability to carry out kind of tasks, albeit in a consumer type environment. But there's many applications for that in some of the industries that we serve. And then as we've looked at collaborations with other robotics firms, and we're going to launch a collaboration with one of those on the 13th of November when we host a event in New York, it's huge. And then you think about the unit cost of production of these robots when they get to a certain sense of maturity and scale, and the number of companies, whether it be the Elon Musk robotic, or whether it be the 3 or 4 other firms that are notable. It's just the capacity is potentially huge. That's before you even get to the capability of the Chinese robots. I saw one in Saudi last week, Unitree. It's huge. So the disruption that's going to create, I think, is not yet well understood, but will be, I think, the biggest challenge to be overcome in the next 3 to 5 year time horizon you gave. Now, what we're doing right now, in a sense of running to where the puck is going, as well as thinking about the role of humans augmented by AI, the role of digital workers, and we talked about the Loops platform, and the role of robotics is the field service, the asset management, the capabilities that we are developing are making sure that we're solving for that blended, orchestrated workforce, the future. But the robotics is the key thing to answer your question.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a really good point, which is it's not just the physical acts that robots can perform, which is fairly staggering on its own. But when you look at the data that robots are capable of capturing, I think it's fascinating. And one of our clients, just to give a shameless plug to one of our clients, we consult with a company called Boston Dynamics out of Boston that makes robotics, humanoid robotics, other types of robotics, mainly used in B2B environments. And there's military applications and law enforcement applications as well. What I found fascinating just from learning about this client is just how many data sources and data points that they're capturing every second. And so you combine that with AI and the whole, big data, Internet of Things trend that was already underway. And I could see how this could be a pretty big, I think exponentially, I mean, the possibilities are limitless.